Hey guys, welcome back once again to our taxation class, and today we will discuss our chapter 2 of income taxation. And hinati ko pa rin siya into two parts, no? Para at least mas ma-digest natin yung lecture natin for today. And for tomorrow, of course, yung part 2. So we will tackle yung taxes, tax laws, and yung tax administration. So once again, I am Elvy Razonales. I'm a CPA and also a law student sa Central Philippine University. So we have here, no, yung libro natin, sabi natin, no, we give credit of course dun sa 2021 na version ng ating libro by Sir Rex Bangawan, CPA and MBA. If hindi pa kayo nakabili ng libro, sobrang ganda ng libro, guys. So it's better, no, kahit estudyante ka man or not, you are reviewing for the CPA board exam. Ito sobrang makakatulong to kasi nga super updated siya. So 2021 na version. So if you have time to buy, no, sa Shopee available din siya. And meron din siya doon sa ating tawag dito, yung sa Rex Bookstore, no? Ayan. So to start with, okay. Ayan. So, sabi ni Miss Mary Ann Radmacher, sabi dito, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. So, it doesn't matter, no? Sometimes with all humility, all we need to do is to acknowledge where we are and acknowledge as well that we need God. And hindi natin kaya for one day lang, no, yung review natin, yung exam natin, yung lecture natin. So we need, of course, an ample time to digest everything that we are studying as well. So don't get discouraged. So may bukas pa, no? Sabihin mo sa katabi mo, may bukas pa. Ayan. So I will try again tomorrow. So don't wait, no? Kung meron ka namang time, no, your tomorrow, no, should be kumbaga hindi siya parang manyana habit. Ayan. So, let's do our best every day, and I know God will bless us in everything that we do as long as we acknowledge, no, His presence, His guidance, no, na si Lord yung tutulong sa atin as well. So, in this chapter, no, pasadahan lang natin. We will discuss yung different types of taxation laws. Also, we will discuss ito, yung distinction among tax laws, ano pinagkaiba niya dun sa revenue regulations, revenue rulings. So, we'll also tackle yung tax, yung elements niya, classification. So, marami siyang type, no, as to classifications. Also, we will tackle those similar items like yung mga tariffs, ano pinagkaiba niya dun sa tax, no? Penalty, ano pinagkaiba niya sa tax. We'll also discuss yung tax system and its types, as well as finally ito, the principles of a sound tax system. Ito pa pala, meron pa, no, how tax is administered. And so ito, second part na to, the powers of the BIR and yung commissioner, no, and non-delegated powers of CIR. And finally, ito, the criteria for selection of large taxpayers. So ito, second part na to, no, ng aking lecture. So first part muna, para at least mas ma-digest natin yung theory. No, we are still talking about the introduction. Still parang ano siya, part pa rin siya ng chapter 1 natin. Okay? Ayan, ano mga sources ng taxation law? So sa libro natin, meron dyan enumeration. So we have from Constitution, statutes, presidential decrees, no, basahin natin, judicial decisions or case laws, executive orders, and batas pangbansa. So meron pa yung mga sources ng taxation laws natin. So I think nalista natin 10, no. Number 6, administrative issuances, local ordinances. Meron din tayo galing sa tax treaties and conventions with foreign countries and revenue regulation. So, we will discuss na itong administrative issuances. So, saan ba nanggaling yan? So marami siyang sources, no? Dito sa list natin may 6. Revenue regulations. So when we talk about revenue regulations, we are talking about doon sa Bureau of Internal Revenue. Ayan, memorandum orders, rulings, circulars, and bulletins. So meron dyan tayo brief description, ano yung definition ng 6 na yan, no? So we will discuss yung revenue regulations. Ayan, so sino ba nagbibigay, nag-i-issue ng revenue regulations? Sabi dito galing sa Secretary of Finance. And of course, upon recommendation ng Commissioner of Internal Revenue. Ayan, ito yung mga formal pronouncements intended. Ano yung purpose ng revenue regulation? It is intended to clarify and to explain ano yung ibig sabihin ng mga tax laws natin. So also, it will carry into effect, no, its general provisions. Ano ba yung detalye doon, how to regulate, how to administer, paano ba yung procedure ng pag-regulate ng ating revenue regulations. Meron din naman revenue memorandum rulings. So ano yan? Rulings, opinions, and interpretation of commissioner. So yan yung RMRs. Yan yung parang opinion, no, interpretation ng ating commissioner of internal revenue. Ayan. So sabi dito, no, basahin natin, with or without established precedents and which the CIR may issue from time to time. And kung feel ni CIR to issue some interpretations or opinion niya based doon sa provisions, no, ng ating tax laws, so ilalagay niya rin yan. And as well as yung purpose of providing taxpayers guidance para may guide yung mga taxpayers natin how to pay the correct taxes, no? So yan yung RMRs. So galing yan doon sa Commissioner of Internal Revenue. So we have also, kung may RMRs, meron tayong RMCs, Revenue Memorandum Circular. Sabi dito, issuances that publish pertinent and applicable portions as well as amplifications. So when we say amplifications, for example, one sentence lang yung nakalagay dun sa tax law, in-expound niya. So parang kasama na rin doon yung interpretation niya, ano ba yung word na yon, no, how to define those words, no. Nakalagay din dyan yung mga revenue memorandum circular. So it is also for the purpose of more clearer interpretation of laws, rules, and regulations issued by, of course, by the BIR. Ayan, so we have also RB or revenue bulletins. Diyan nilalagay minsan kung available pa ba yung EFPS, no, electronic filing system. Nakalagay din diyan kung ano may mga important provisions, no, nakalagay of the tax code relevant to the tax laws. These are official announcements, no, nilalagay nila diyan sa revenue bulletins. And finally, we have BIR rulings. So sabi dito, official position of the Bureau to queries raised by taxpayers. Pag nag-inquire yung mga taxpayers doon sa BIR, dito nila nilalagay, no, yung kanilang answer to those queries. And to, of course, to clarify, no, further, or yung interpretation, of course. These are merely, pag sinabing BIR rulings, these are merely advisory, no, sort of information service to the taxpayer. None of them is binding, of course, except to the addressee, and may be reversed by the BIR at any time. Okay? Kasi nga, not all, hindi naman siya absolute opinion. So, subject pa rin siya for further interpretations by the tax lawyers, no, by the commissioner, of course. Okay, so we're done with the BIR ruling. So, let's jump doon sa types of ruling. Ano mga example niya, no? Pasadahan lang natin. VAT rulings, meron din International Tax Affairs Division ng mga rulings, BIR rulings, and Delegated Authority or DA rulings. So yan, enumerate lang siya doon sa mga rulings. Alright? So let's move on with the i-compare natin ngayon ano yung ibig sabihin ng GAAP, no, sa accounting, no, sa basic accounting 1101, no. Pag sinabing GAAP, we understand that it is about the it means generally accepted accounting principles. So, i-compare natin ano yung pinagkaiba niya dun sa tax laws. No, sabi dito, yung GAAP daw, hindi sila law, alright? But are mere convention of financial reporting. Kumbaga, different tax practitioners around the world, no? Nag-convince sila, no? Ano ba yung proper presentation ng asset, ng liabilities, no? Ng equity, ng income and expense. How do we present this, no? Na coincide siya, no? Magko-convene tayo, then let's interpret ano ba yung best na reporting style dito. So these are not laws, but this GAAP serves as guideline, no? Accounting records and reports are intended to meet ano ba yung common need ng ating general public. So yun lang ibig sabihin niya, no? Magkaiba sila in a sense that yung GAAP is just a guideline, hindi sila tax laws. Whereas yung mga tax laws natin, of course, yung regulations, rulings, yan, nagpe-prescribe yan dun sa tax reporting. A special form of financial reporting which is intended to meet specific needs of authorities. Ayan. So, normally, in taxpayers natin, fina-follow yung GAAP, of course, in recording transactions doon sa libro. But, when we report naman dun sa BIR, of course, in the preparation and filing of mga tax returns natin, we will use, of course, yung doon sa tax law. Siyempre, kasi nga mas mataas yung tax law, mas mabigat siya kaysa sa GAAP. So, yung GAAP kasi natin is just a guideline. Alright. So, dito nakalagay, no, nature. Ano ba yung nature ng Philippine tax laws natin? Sabi dito, it's not a political. Na kung iba yung nakaupo, iba rin yung interpretation na ng tax. So, hindi ganon yung Philippine tax laws sa Philippines. It is civil and also they are effective even during periods of enemy occupation. Alright? So, ibig sabihin kung na-invade yung Philippines, so yung tax laws pa rin ng Philippines yung masusunod. So, our internal revenue laws are not penal in nature, because they do not define crime. They are just guideline para ma-secure yung compliance ng mga taxpayers. So, yan. So, tax. Punta tayo dito sa definition ng tax. Pag sinabing tax, ito nakalagay, no, sa slides natin. Unenforced proportional contribution. Napag-usapan natin earlier dun sa earlier chapters, no, sa chapter 1, na para ma-serve ng government natin yung purpose niya to provide public service, no, yung mga social services, of course they need to allocate, no, yung proportionate share ng public doon sa mga concreting of roads, pag-create ng bridge, no. So kailangan may proportional contribution, of course, in a sense that the people or the taxpayer will share yung doon sa taxes. So, in a form of taxes para at least makaraise yung government natin ng revenue and for, of course, yung public purpose. Okay? So, yan yung definition ng taxes natin. Right? Ano ba yung elements, no, ng isang valid na tax? So, number 1, yung tax daw dapat must be levied by the taxing power. Dapat yung may jurisdiction doon sa object ng taxation. Like for example, kung dito sa Philippines yung land, so of course yung may jurisdiction doon is yung Philippine government. So sila yung may right to impose ang magkano yung tax liability. Number 2, tax must not violate ano ba yung constitutional and inherent limitations. Hindi pwedeng sobra-sobra yung pag-tax, of course, no? Unless it will be, otherwise it will be an invalid tax, right? So sabi rin dito, dapat uniform and equitable. So hindi pwedeng mahirap na nga, no? Mga poor na nga, tapos anti-poor pa yung ating tax laws, hindi naman pwede yun. Dapat equitable din siya, uniform din siya, no? Pantay-pantay. And of course, dapat yung tax is for public purpose, no? And also, dapat proportional in character. So, we'll discuss it later. Pag sinabing proportional, ibig sabihin nun, pag mataas yung income mo, mataas yung tax mo na babayaran. Alright? So, kung maliit siya, dapat mas maliit rin yung tax na babayaran. Proportionate lang doon sa tax base natin. Tax is generally payable in money. Pag nagbayad tayo kay BIR, hindi pwedeng manok, hindi pwedeng sasakyan, no? Hindi rin pwedeng kahit cellphone, no? Hindi pwede. Dapat in a form of money. Alright? So, yan yung ating elements of valid tax. Right. Punta naman tayo dito sa classification of taxes. So, maraming classification, guys. So, isa-isay natin. So, as unang-una dito, yung main category niya is as to purpose. So, we have 3. Fiscal or revenue tax, no? Ibig sabihin yan is a tax imposed doon for the, yung purpose niya, no? Yung fiscal. Ibig sabihin, for general purpose. Alright? Number 2, tax as to purpose is regulatory. Okay? Pag sinabing regulatory, it is imposed to what? To regulate, para maayos, ma-put into order yung mga negosyo, mga business. Hindi pwedeng, parang kesera-sera lang, parang hindi ma-regulate yung pag-establish ng mga negosyo sa Philippines. So, dapat, siya, step by step, dapat, pwedeng ma-regulate, no? Hindi pwedeng, gusto ko mag-business ng illegal drugs. So, hindi pwedeng gano'n, no? And at the same time, number 3, sumptuary. Ayan, a tax levy to achieve, of course, yung purpose niya para ma-achieve yung social or economic objectives ng government natin. Right? So, we have 3, no? As to purpose. As to subject matter naman, we have also 3, no? Personal, ano ba yung subject or object ng ating tax, no? Dito, personal, poll, or capitation. A tax on persons who are residents of a particular territory. So, within the jurisdiction of the Philippines, of course, all those people or tax on persons, yun yung magiging subject matter. Alright? Number 2, property tax. Of course, this tax, no, yung subject matter niya are properties, real or personal properties. And number 3, meron tayo dito excise or privilege tax. Ito yung tax na ini-impose doon sa performance ng isang act or pag nag-enjoy ka ng isang privilege, no, or nag-engage ka into an specific occupation. So, excise or privilege tax yung tawag doon as to subject matter. So, next classification of tax as to incidents, meron tayong dalawa, direct and indirect tax. Alright, so, 2 persons, no? Kailangan nating tandaan dito. Sa direct tax, yung statutory taxpayer, tsaka siya yung required na magbayad, no? Siya yung liable na magbayad, is the same person doon sa economic taxpayer. Siya yung liable and siya din yung nagbayad ng money doon sa BIR. Then yung tawag doon, direct tax. Okay? When we talk about naman doon sa indirect tax, yung statutory or yung required to pay, no? Yung required to pay or statutory taxpayer is different doon sa economic taxpayer. Alright? Ibig sabihin doon, yung nagbayad ng buwis, na required nagbayad ng buwis, is different doon sa actual na nagbayad ng buwis, no? The statutory is the person named by law to pay the tax. Alright? And an economic taxpayer is the one who actually pays the tax. Pag sinabing indirect, magkaiba, no? Alright? So, magkaiba yung dalawang tao na yon, dalawang taxpayer sa indirect tax. So, direct tax, isa lang, no? Isang tao lang yon, yung statutory and economic taxpayer. Sa indirect tax, dalawa. Different persons, yung statutory and yung economic taxpayer. Ayan. So, another classification of taxes, no? Meron tayo dito as to amount. We have number 1, specific tax. Number 2, ad valorem tax. Pag sinabing specific tax, ito yung tax of a fixed amount imposed on a per unit. Underscore natin, no, sa mga libro natin. Underscore natin pag sinabing specific tax, may nakalagay nila na fixed amount, no? Example, 1,000 pesos yung tax mo kung meron kang ganitong per unit basis. So, kung nakalagay 1,000 pesos per 1 kilo or per 1,000 meters, no? So, nakalagay na doon yung fixed amount. Pag sinabi namang of ad valorem tax, yan yung tax na may fixed proportion imposed upon the value of the tax object. So, sometimes nasa percentage siya, no? 1%, 2%, no? So, depende doon sa tax rate na required na ibayad. So, ad valorem. So, ad valorem, certain fixed proportion or percentage. Specific tax, nakalagay doon yung fixed amount. So, in peso. So, per unit naman siya yung charging. Alright. Ayan. So, another classification of tax, no? Meron tayong 4 under as to rate, no? Pag sinabing proportional, no? This is a flat or fixed rate tax. So, yung gamit dito is emphasizes equality as it subjects all taxpayers with the same rate without regard to their ability to pay. Alright? Proportional siya. Number 2, progressive or graduated tax. Madaling salita, progressive meaning pag tumataas yung income mo, tumataas rin yung tax bracket mo. Alright? O yung certain percentage, no? Tumataas rin yung tax liability mo. Yung regressive naman, no? Decreasing tax rates as the tax base increase. So, para ito yung tawag dito, parang, anti-poor. Yung other term dito, no? Which, sabi dito, it directly violates yung constitutional guarantee of progressive taxation. So ito, I think hindi ito ginagamit dito sa Philippines, yung regressive tax system wherein nagdi-decrease yung tax rates whereas nag-i-increase yung tax base niya. So mixed tax, of course, mix lang siya ng tatlo na una. So proportional, progressive, and regressive. Okay, punta naman tayo dito sa as to imposing authority. So there are two, no, classification of taxes here, national and local taxes. So ito, of course, pag sinabi national tax, yung nag-impose dito is yung national government, whereas yung local tax, of course, municipal, no, municipal or local government. Ano example no? National tax, income tax, meron din tayong estate tax, meron din tayong donors tax, value added tax, other percentage tax, excise tax, and documentary stamp tax. Alright? Yung mga local tax naman, of course, these are real property tax, professional tax, no? Business taxes, community tax, yung cedula natin, local tax yan, tax on banks and other financial institutions. So, yan yung ating classification of taxes, no? Meron tayo, balikan natin as to purpose, as to subject matter. So we have here as well, as to incidents, no? As to amount. Ayan, as to rate, meron din as to imposing authority, either national or local. Ayan. So, yan yung classifications, no? Medyo madami siya, pero bit by bit, actually, madali lang din siya intindihin. Alright? Punta naman tayo dito sa distinction of taxes with similar items. So, i-compare natin yung tax doon sa similar items na kinukolekt ng gobyerno. Alright? The first thing, here is the tax versus revenue. Pag sinabing tax daw, no, sabi dito, is the amount kung magkano yung inimpose ng government for the public purpose. Pag sinabi namang revenue, yan yung total income collections ng gobyerno. So, mas malaki yung revenue. Yung tax is part lang doon ng government revenue natin. Ano ba yung compositions ng revenue natin? Mayroon tayo dito. It includes taxes, tariffs, licenses, toll, penalties, and others. No? The amount of tax, the amount imposed is tax, but the amount collected is revenue. Yung inimpose is, yun yung tawag doon is tax. Alright? Yung actual na kinolect, no, ng gobyerno is yung revenue. Okay, number 2. Compare natin yung tax naman dito sa license fee. Sabi dito yung tax daw is mas malaki, mas broad siya. Kung i-compare mo dun sa license. So pag nag-operate na yung business mo prior to operation, no, mag-register ka dun sa munisipyo, so you will pay a license fee, no, or magre-register ka pa lang ng lisensya. So prior, no, pre-activity imposition, no, pag start pa lang before mag-start ng operation, license fee yun. So after na nag-operate na siya, nag-earn na siya ng income, tawag doon is post-activity imposition. Yan yung taxes. Alright, so number 3, tax versus toll. So, familiar tayo sa mga toll fee. No, yung tax is a levy of a government, whereas yung toll or yung mga toll fees natin, of course, these are nagaling dyan dun sa private and public partnership, no? Whereas, yung private company na yon, sila na magbe-build ng example, yung mga skyways, mga bridges for the government. Tapos, within that, like for example, 10 to 20 years, no? Meron dyan toll fee. So, i-collect yan ng private company. So, until such time maubos na yung time na yon, mag-lapse na yung time, then ito turn over na yun, yung property na yun sa government. So, toll is a charge for the use of others' property. So, it is a demand of ownership. Of course, yung owner ng bridge na yun, or yung ng skyway na yun, flyover, is private pa. So, yung tawag sa pag-collecta nila, yung kine-collect nila is toll or mga toll fee. Okay, another thing, no? Tax versus sa utang, sa debt. So yung tax is a liability. So nag-aarise siya from law, sa batas natin. Whereas yung utang naman, nanggaling siya doon sa private contract na pinirmahan mo, no, na umutang ka doon sa bangko, no, sa mga credit or sa lending companies. Ayan. So non-payment of tax, of course, leads to imprisonment. Makukulong ka pag nag-evade ka, pag hindi ka nagbayad ng tax. Whereas, pag hindi ka nagbayad ng utang, of course, it will not lead to imprisonment. It will just cause to some civil liability. So, debt can be subject to set-off, but yung tax natin is hindi siya pwede. Yung utang, pwede siyang bayaran in kind. Pwede mong bayaran yung utang mo ng isang sako ng bigas or isang tonelada ng isda, no? Pwede mo ibayad, but yung tax natin hindi siya pwedeng bayaran other than sa money. So dapat pera lang ang pangbayad natin. Okay, another thing, no? Tax versus a special assessment. Sabi dito, no? Tax is an amount imposed upon persons, properties, or privileges. Yung special assessment naman is levied by the government on land. So, bilugan natin. Pag sinabing special assessment, these are related to land only. So, sa land lang siya. Yung tax, ini-impose yan sa persons, properties, or privileges. Okay? Yung special assessments is for the land. Alright? So, it will not become a personal obligation of the landowner. Therefore, pag hindi ka nagbayad ng special assessment, it will not result to imprisonment of the owner. Unlike the non-payment of tax. Okay? Tax versus tariff. Ano ba yung tariff natin? It pertains to the imports or exports of commodities. Okay? So, mas malaki yung scope pa rin ng tax kaysa sa tariff natin. And finally, we have here yung tax versus a penalty. Of course, sabi dito, tax is an amount imposed for the support of the government. Yung penalty naman, dahil lumabag ka sa batas, of course, yung purpose nun is to discourage yung paglabag mo sa batas. So, to discourage that illegal act, no? Para hindi ka na mag-commit, of course, ito yung penalty mo. Ayan. So, penalty may be imposed doon sa government and private individuals, no? It may arise both doon sa law or contract, whereas yung tax natin, doon lang siya galing sa law. Okay, so yan. Ito, as a review na rin, no? Pinag-usapan natin earlier as to the classification ng taxes natin. Progressive, no? Employed in taxation of income of individuals. Progressive yung tawag doon. No, ginagamit dito. Proportional, employed in taxation of corporate income and business. So, kung mas malaki yung tax mo, of course, mas malaki income mo, mas malaki tax mo. Regressive, it is not employed here in the Philippines. So, yung dito naman, no, the types of system, tax system according to impact. So, we have here progressive system. Yan yung tax system which emphasizes, sabi natin kanina, yung direct taxes. Ano ba yung pag sinabing direct taxes? Sabi natin yung statutory taxpayer tsaka yung economic taxpayer is one person lang. A direct tax cannot be shifted. Hindi siya pwedeng i-shift sa ibang tao. Alright? So, this type of tax system impacts more upon the rich people. Whereas itong regressive tax system, sabi natin kanina, these are anti-poor. No? Hindi siya, the Philippines has dominantly regressive tax system due to prevalence of business taxes. Dahil sa tax system ng Philippines, no, dami tayong kino-collect ng mga business taxes. So, it is widely believed that despite the constitutional guarantee ng progressive taxation dito sa Philippines, still, nangyayari pa rin yung regressive tax system wherein yung statutory taxpayer is different doon sa economic taxpayer. Like for example, yung output VAT natin, yung 12% VAT, di ba? Liable doon yung mga seller, wholesaler, mga retailers. What they are doing right now is sinishift nila doon sa buyer, no, yung obligation to pay that taxes. No, wala silang binabayad, pinapasa lang nila doon sa consumer. Kaya pataas ng pataas yung ating mga tax na binabayaran. So, still, nangyayari pa rin siya, although dinidiscourage na siya nga ng ating constitution. Alright? Okay, ito last part ng aking part 1 ng ating chapter 2. Sabi dito, tax collection system. So, we have 4, no? Meron tayo letter A, withholding system on income tax. So, we have 2 under that, may creditable withholding tax, and final, number 2, final withholding taxes. So, there are companies na subject to or are required by the BIR to withhold. Like for example, withholding doon sa compensation, sa sweldo ng tao. So, kung doon ka nagtatrabaho sa mga big companies, no, meron dyan mga, pag nag-above ka ng 20,833.33, no, monthly na income, meron kang certain percentage na i-withhold sa'yo ng company mo. Tapos yung company mo na yon, siya yung magre-remit doon kay BIR. So, tawag doon, withholding tax on compensation. Meron din tayo doon sa mga purchases. So, when these big companies purchase some goods or services from you, so they are required as well by the BIR to withhold certain percentage. Like, kung goods yung binili sa'yo ng large taxpayers na to, 1%. Kung service naman yung binili sa'yo, 2% yung withhold nila doon sa total amount. What will happen to that withheld tax? Sila yung magre-remit kay BIR. Okay? So, there are things naman that we call yung final withholding tax. These are intended for the collection. Gusto ng gobyerno makakolek agad, no? Kasi nga meron siyang high risk of non-compliance kasi posibleng hindi magbayad ng tamang buwis yung taxpayer. Therefore, no, nire-require itong mga taxpayers na to, large taxpayers, to withhold. Tawag naman doon is final withholding tax. Okay. Letter B, meron tayo withholding tax on business taxes. So kung pag bumili yung gobyerno or yung mga government-owned companies, and controlled corporations, so they are required as well to withhold. Tawag doon is VAT withholding, no? Relevant business taxes. So different, ano naman siya, another part ng ating lecture, yung sa business and transfer taxation. Of course, may separate libro din si Rex for that. Okay, letter C, voluntary compliance system, no? Itong method na to, self-assessment method. Ibig sabihin, you are paying the BIR, ikaw mag-fill up dun sa, like for example, income tax return, ikaw maglalagay dun magkano yung income mo, yung expense mo, no? Tapos yung tax liability mo. So it is a voluntary based on your faithful presentation of your operation, no? Kung nag-earn ka ba, so magkano yung tax liability mo. And lastly, no, assessment or enforcement system. Yung BIR natin, they are doing some benchmarking. Like for example, top 100 hotels, no, in the Philippines. Magkano yung income nila? So bracket 1, like for example, 100 million yung income nila per month. So bracket number 2, 50 million and up, parang ganon. So magbe-benchmark sila. What they do is to parang nagsasampling sila, no, for that items, for those companies na malalaki yung income. So ina-assess nila, ito yung final mo, no, 100 million, tapos yung pala lumalabas per audit nila, per assessment, mas malaki pa doon, then you will have a tax assessment, malaki yung babayaran mo kay BIR pag hindi ka nag-comply. Ayan, so it will include, of course, penalties, no, demands for taxpayers' voluntary compliance. And until such time, no, kung mag-a-appeal ka pa dun sa mga Court of Tax Appeals, Supreme Court, so medyo mahaba-haba pa siya. Alright? So, ito. Okay. Last, I think dito na tayo sa last slide ko, no? So, tapos na tayo sa part 1. Of course, to cap off our discussion dito sa part 1. Yung second part ng chapter 2 ko is very short na lang siya na discussion. Kasi nga, it will just discuss ano yung powers ng Commissioner of Internal Revenue. Ano ba yung role ng ating BIR, no? When we talk about tax, no? Ayan. So sabi ni Walt Disney, no, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So there are things na kung kausap mo yung mga friends mo, ano yung mga gusto mo, no? Ano gusto mong marating? Ano gusto mo sa life mo, 'di ba? Ano gusto mong gawin? So marami tayong pwedeng sabihin. So we are busy talking. So yung challenge ni Walt Disney, no? Why not start doing? No, kahit magkamali ka, at least you're learning something, no? Kahit mag-fail ka, no? Like for example, this online platform of talking to you, no? It's a learning curve as well, no? Medyo madami pa tayong kailangang matutunan, no? Of course, in this online platform, no? Bumibilis yung panahon, kailangan mag-adapt rin tayo sa new technology, new way of learning, new way of teaching, no? So, ayan. So, maraming salamat, of course, kay Walt Disney for giving us this short motivation as well. So, sabi nga natin, #TaxNation, we are talking about tax here sa ating online lecture, and also we are talking about inspiration. Inspire Nation. So, hindi lang tax, kundi inspiration din yung matututunan natin dito sa ating lecture na to. Alright? So, I think that's it, guys. That's the end of part 1 ng chapter 2 na discussion ko. I will see you guys in the next video. So, hopefully may natutunan kayo, and don't forget to hit like, no? Kung may time kayo to subscribe and share this online content, please do, no? Makakatulong to, at least marami pa tayong matutulungan, and mga online students that are taking up taxation class. So once again, I am Elvy Razonales. I am your kuya, I'm your friend, no, online friend. No? And I'm just here to pray for the best, no, that the Lord will continue to bless you, to guide you, and give you wisdom. Right? So I will see you in the next video, guys. Bye!